Hi, my name's Emma and let's talk spooky stuff. The chicken or the egg? Usually this is a never-ending question, but in today's case, it's the egg. I'm thinking of Ending Things hit Netflix on Friday and starred Jesse Plemons, Jessie Buckley, Toni Collette, and David Thewlis, who I think had my favorite performance in the film, but we will circle back to that. The drama thriller is based on the book of the same name by Ian Reid. The film is about a young woman who sets off on a long car ride with her new boyfriend to meet his family for the first time. But when she arrives to their farmhouse, things seem off as she spirals into a dark trip of self-reflection. The movie, although starting off slow, descends into a rapid freefall and into complete surrealism, asking the audience to piece together the story with what little clues or guidance they have been given. But unlike most films when it's a positive to go in completely blind, this actually works to the film's detriment. We're looking at the clues, reading into the detailed set design and breaking down every word of dialogue throughout its mumblecore scenes. But without any direction, we wonder, when a door swings open, is it because it's haunted? When there's a creak in the house, is it because it's cursed? When the family starts acting bizarre, is it because they're hiding a secret? The film may leave viewers high and dry because of its ambiguous ending, and most of all because it's done such a good job of reeling us all in. We truly cared, we were intrigued. I was on the edge of my seat laughing at the bizarre, awkward humor, and I was astonished by the use of mixed media. I actually enjoyed the film for what it was. Many of you who I follow across social media were so excited about the book. You kept talking about how you couldn't put it down, and I saw you praising it, thinking it was one of the best books you've read in a long time. So when I mentioned the movie was coming out in my last VOD, What's Coming Up This Month video, I asked you, as a film lover, should I read the book before seeing the movie? Many of you told me I should watch the movie first so the book doesn't spoil the reveal. But boy, were we wrong about that. Because the book and the movie couldn't have more opposite endings. If you haven't seen the movie or read the book, this is your time to click off because I'm about to spoil both of them for you. But I do recommend reading the book before watching the movie, and you'll have to come back to this video to figure out why, but I'm sure you will agree with me. Because the movie does not explain the riddle at all. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Basically, this video is going to be a discussion on the book versus the movie, but I'm also going to explain the endings. This is an interesting perspective because I watched the movie first and then I immediately listened to the audiobook. And so, full disclosure, I listened to the audiobook, I did not read it, and I did it in one sitting. So I watched the movie that went for 2 hours, and then I listened to the audiobook that went for 5 hours. So listening to them back to back, watching and listening to them back to back, I feel like I have a really fresh perspective on the differences between them. The film and the book share the same idea and similar aspects, but because of the way that they unravel and present the story, they're completely different. For those who don't care about spoilers, I have warned you, please don't watch past this part because you'll spoil everything for yourself. The movie misses out a lot of the key clues to the reveal, and it also leaves out the ending where the reveal is explained that the whole trip was a delusion of Jake. This circles back to the conversation in the car about what thoughts are and how they're the only part of someone that is real and can't be faked. Jake never met his girlfriend, but instead saw her in a bar and never approached her. He then took her into his delusion to see what may have happened in another life. The too long didn't read ending of the book talks about the couple going into the school, and it is revealed via a painting that they are the same person, and then they intertwine and you realize that it was the same voice all along. Although there are some paintings in the movie and it comes through in a different way, there is a photo that is in his parents' house that is meant to show the same thing and the same clue in a completely different way. She looks at it, she sees herself, and then she looks back and sees Jake. So this is actually meant to be mirroring the reveal clue in the book, but it is very early on in the movie. After this, in the book, there is a very tragic ending when we realize that Jake is each character in the book, and his true form is the janitor, and he is there to end his own life. He is a lonely old man reflecting on his life and thinking about ending things. Literally. In the movie, the reveal was hidden in a surrealist ending where the film turns into the Dream Ballet from Oklahoma, and then Jake ends the performance with the song Lonely Room. This is a song about being alone and imagining things in your head, and I quote, "All of the things that I wish for turn out like I want them to be. The girl that I want ain't afraid of my arms." The song goes on to talk about how he is woken out of his delusion. "It was all a pack of lies. I'm awake in a lonely room." If you have not seen Oklahoma, this whole section probably makes no sense and is completely random. The movie does a good job at presenting the first-person account of thoughts and feelings possessed by Jessie Buckley's character, who is credited as Young Woman. Both the book and the movie, because they're told through her eyes, do a really good job at tricking the audience into believing it is her story. This is where I think the adaptation works. We follow her inner dialogue as a voiceover taken from the book word for word, and we can see her thinking these thoughts and Jake actually responding, which is different from the book where we have no idea what he's feeling in these moments. We can see those little tilts of his head and see him reacting to what she is thinking.
Huh? What? Did you say something? I don't think so.
But I feel like besides the end, the biggest difference in the movie is the difference in the relationship. And this has a lot to do with the title, I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which although has a double meaning in the book because it wraps around and makes sense, but is also about ending himself. Where at the start, you think it's about ending a relationship. But in the book, they tread really lightly on this. She is thinking of ending things, but it doesn't work the same in the film because she seems overly repulsed by Jake the whole time and is pretty set on breaking up with him. There's this real stress and irritation she has for him, which makes some of the apathy she has for him in the book melt away. She's irritated. She wants to get home. She just wants to get away from him and back to her life. In the book, she goes back and forth quite a bit about the relationship and how she wants to be with him, and then obviously the negatives, but she does say that she's attracted to him, where in the movie you just feel this repulsion. Obviously in the film, this is trying to lead us astray from figuring out that her thoughts are really his and giving her her own sense of self, worries, and desires. While in the book, she toys around with the thought of leaving him, which is really his own insecurities. In my opinion, although I loved her character and she was pretty kick-ass, we needed this in the movie. We needed her to be more of a passive character. It's a clue about the dynamics of their relationship that we were missing, and if they weren't gonna show us the end and reveal that to us, they could have given us that piece. Speaking of missing clues, many of the clues in the film do not make much sense without knowing the context behind them. The phone calls that the young woman gets in the film are bizarre, but they're never addressed. I feel like it's trying to throw you off, but it is a bigger part of the book. Although they do relay the idea that her name is constantly changing and the person who is calling her is herself with a man's voice, in the book they are a greater concern. She talks through getting them and being so worried about what they are and what they mean. But with the changed ending, it doesn't make much sense either, because the calls are meant to be his thoughts coming through and ruining his fantasy, his dark thoughts about ending himself that keep interrupting his daydream. In the movie, because you're not sure what direction it is taking, it makes her seem sketchy, and you think that she is trying to hide something because you've heard her inner dialogue about everything else. Why not about these calls? You just think she's dodging someone, where in the book they point to the more dramatic ending. Another major plot point they miss is the brother. In the book, he talks about having a brother and how that caused so much problems with his family, and this gives a greater understanding to what the family dynamic was and why the parents are acting so strange. Of course, he is this brother, but all of the problems that he talks about gives a further insight to this dysfunctional family, where in the movie, the family was the most confusing part, although I enjoyed it. It was very confusing, and you really didn't get any answers or clues into why they were so heavily involved in such a big part of the movie. There was some things that the movie did that was quite clever because they did it in ways that you couldn't do it in a book. They tied the janitor into the story a lot earlier. Simple things like the intercut of the scenes of the janitor in the hallways and the janitor entering into the TV show he was watching almost like he was drifting elsewhere again. His clothes were in the washing machine. And of course, Jake mentions several things about working in a school. These were great clues, I think, visually, and I think it's the thing that drew me closer, or the closest I got to the conclusion, because seeing the janitor intercut, I kept thinking, who is he? Is he meant to be Jake older? What is going on? And then I had the thought, was she daydreaming about the janitor, or was the janitor daydreaming about her? I got close. Another huge difference between the book and the film is the family visit, because it goes on for so long in the movie and is such a big part that leads you astray. The second act, where they get to the parents' house, turns the film on its head. While the book only drops subtle hints to it not being real, like the one band-aid on the father's head becoming two, or the mother, she goes and changes her clothes, and the young woman in the book keeps going back and forth to why the mother may have changed her clothes. The movie goes full out kooky. In the movie, they're aging, they're going back and forth throughout time, and the young woman walks away thinking, or being told, that she must have had too much wine. Although this completely leads the viewer astray, I will say this is my favorite part of the film. Toni Collette and David Thewlis's chemistry is amazing. It was dark, awkward, and actually relatable to audiences, mainly because of the awkwardness. And if you've ever been in an awkward dinner table and just not known what to say, I felt that, and I really got sucked into a character in that moment. It really pulled you into the story, into the mystery, and you cared about it. You wanted to know what the truth was. But as soon as you step away and you look at the structure of the film, you can see how distracting that portion was. Although it was really cool in theory, it took away from the story being about Jake and the janitor, and really made you think about ageism, growing old, and what that means. What I love about this pairing is there's just so much discussion. I wrote down a list of maybe 100 things that were completely different in the movie and in the book, and I could sit here forever, and I love that. As soon as this came out and I posted that I watched it, so many of you were in my inbox asking me certain questions and talking about certain aspects, and it's really exciting to see you so excited, and in turn I'm so excited to talk about this, although I do feel like it let a lot of people down. While the book still does jump around a whole lot, I feel like it is really in control of the story, and it explains the final twist to those who are invested, while the book relies on you to read in between the lines, know the subtext, and of course, to have seen Oklahoma. After 2.5 hours, people may feel misled with all of the strange aspects it chose to include, and even more so, all of the ones it chose to cut out. I do understand that they wanted to tell a story with a point of difference. On paper, the reveal is not an original film. We have seen this before. So to warp it into this literally theatrical ending, it does give it a feeling of being unique. And you have to give them credit, because with these topics, they do need to tread very carefully to not fall into the "it was all a dream" pit. Films have gone there and they've died there. When reading the book, I felt it was obvious what was going on halfway through, and I don't know if it was because I had already seen the movie. But when I watched the movie, I just had assumptions of what had happened, and I couldn't tell you clearly. And I don't know if that's a good thing. A lot of you DM'd me afterwards asking me what the heck just happened. And hopefully this has made a lot more sense now. I was thrilled by the film, but I do feel like I was left hanging. And this is why I think you should read the book before seeing the movie. A little bit too late now. The film feels more like a love letter to the book than a standalone interpretation of the intriguing story. But it is a beautiful, detailed, unique film at that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I can't wait to see your thoughts down below. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, if you liked one better. I'm sure everyone liked the book better. I can pretty much bank on that. Thank you for bearing with me. I've been very sick. I'm sure you can tell. That's why this video is up late. So I appreciate you guys for letting me take a couple days off. I don't miss an upload, so it's very weird for me. If you do want to subscribe, I do 2 videos every single week talking about horror movies and thrillers, talking about anything, discussions, breakdowns, top lists. I give you some hidden gems all the time. If you want to keep me in your subscription box so you can click on those videos and figure out what to watch this upcoming weekend, please do. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay spooky. Bye.